Hello, I'm Azai. Welcome back to the Fruit of Grisaia. It has been a couple of months and a couple of days after I last played this, so apologies, but I am back. Also, what you guys did not see was me putting a patch to get the unrated version of the game installed on my Steam version, and it actually my save data. You guys weren't missing much. What you guys were missing though was me trying to control skip everything up until this point again, which took me, I kid you not, 25 minutes of control skipping. And control skipping is freaking fast. It's like tens of 20s of lines per second. So just to give you guys some perspective, 5 minutes of skipping text is insanely long to get me to this far. But I guess it's a nice refresher because I haven't played the game in 3 months. It's a nice refresher of what happened in the common route and then what happened in Machina's route. So now that I have the unrated version, I can definitely see some differences on what was skipped. There was a bat scene, a bat scene that was skipped in the Steam version. When I think it was Yumiko, when everyone was complimenting her. That was skipped. Amane going to our room. Every single time she comes to our room, almost every time she's naked. And Machina, we actually only got to the first Machina sex scene, believe it or not. So, I don't know how many hours I have on this game already. Like, from episode 1 to episode 18, I think that's like 30 or maybe even close to 40. If people were playing this game for the sex, dear God, you guys are in for a treat. How long you need to be blue-balled for that. Don't worry though, I did not record it yet, but I did see it. But you guys will see it on a separate file on the Patreon. But yeah, here we are, back at last after 3 months of not playing Grisaia. I thought that the last time I played this, that we were very close to finishing Machina's route, but I think we might actually still have a couple episodes left. Because we were only on the first freaking H scene. I think each girl has 2 or 3. That is insane. So alright, we just finished talking to JB, and she gave us money for, we're basically fugitives now. I still remember, or the fact that I just sped through everything made me remember that we are running away from school. After leaving JB behind and going up to the station platform, I find Machina seated on a bench munching away on a cheap meat dumpling lunch. That looks tasty. Do tell me about the audio balance, by the way. Like, I set it up so that it should be good, and I'm using a different software from before, so everything should be Gucci. Maybe the BGM needs to be a bit louder. There we go. Sound effects in this game are really loud though. That's why I was putting it at like half the maximum volume. Yeah, I'll take it. When I received the box from Machina and tried to untie the strings cross over the top, I noticed that my fingers are shaking. The hell? No, it's nothing. If at all possible, I don't want to kill anyone. But if I don't, we'll both die. I knew that from the start, of course. But now that I've declared it outright to JB, I guess the unavoidable reality of the situation finally sank in. I'm not particularly afraid of dying. I'm not that attached to my life. But right now, I have someone who I need to protect at any cost. Failure is no longer an option, and my hands won't stop trembling. You don't have anything to apologize for. This is how it has to be. I don't know any other way of life. If anything, I'm grateful to you. You and I might have met each other just in the nick of time. I needed Makina, and Makina needed me. Looking back on it now, this outcome might have been inevitable from the moment I met her. This girl might have been waiting in that school for me, waiting to offer me one final chance. I really, truly am grateful. This is pretty good stuff, isn't it? I don't regret a thing. From a local train at Mishima Cape, we switched to an express after 2 stops. 4 stations later, we got on another local heading in the opposite direction, only to disembark at the first stop to catch a semi-express. Riding that all the way into Shinjuku, we cut through the maze-like subterranean tunnels towards Shinjuku Sanchome Station, where we switched to the subway. Continuing a number of similar feints as I keep a watchful eye out for possible pursuers, we finish a quick shopping trip at a hardware store and pharmacy, then finally make our way to a certain neighborhood. You know, this whole being a fugitive thing really reminds me a lot when... what is it? When I was playing Little Busters and I was on the Rin route. Definitely gave me a nostalgic bomb. Yeah, guess you would be. Exhaustion dulls your capacity for judgment. No point in walking ourselves ragged. No matter how many feints you make, it only takes one moment of bad luck to be discovered. You get to a point of diminishing returns after a while. Making ourselves hard to track is about all we can hope for. Alright then, let's go somewhere we can relax. Oh god, are we actually gonna have sex? Oh dear god. After the first sex scene, I have no doubt that the next sex scenes are just gonna keep rolling. That's usually how it is when it comes to these erogays. Discreet lodging facilities are surprisingly easy to find almost anywhere, especially in parts of town frequented by young people. You find plenty of fashion hotels where you can carry in a drunk woman with no questions asked. I don't know if I told you guys this, but I've actually seen that, like when I was in Japan. We were going to this like bar crawl thing, and there were actually people who like carry drunken women to hotels. I'm like, holy shit, this is insane. Of course, if you want some tidy looking place right on the main street, you're going to be running up a decent bill fast. But unless you're bound and determined to stay in some amusement park room with a rotating bed, one of those old-fashioned couples hotel dating from the pre-war era is just fine. The walls tend to be thin, but that means you can't miss anyone breaking in. Also, they tend to be in a slightly shadier part of the neighborhood. And right now, a place next door to a local Yakuza office would be ideal. Even if some incident were to occur, Sakura Damon tends to take a good 30 minutes to arrive in force, and Ichigaya will probably have a slightly harder time poking their head into the Tokyo Police's turf. Wow, this is really bleak. This is reminding me like, I don't know, the first thing that comes to mind is like Doraemon. I know that the houses in that anime are like this. But damn, there's like nothing, no furniture, just that TV. And I don't think that's even a stand, that's like a... I don't know, what's that? A safety lock? For some strange reason, this kind of cheap old hotel is always, without fail, managed by a half-deaf old bat. Of effort just to get across what we wanted. But the old lady didn't even seem to notice a loud fight between a drug dealer and their customer nearby. Just the sort of indifference we're looking for. Who knows? Maybe the previous customer broke out the enema and had themselves a wild scat party or something. Okay, I don't know if this is like censored in the version I previously played, but this definitely caught me off guard. I mean, the Steam version definitely has some crazy sex jokes, but this is the first time I see this. Everyone gets high as a kite, then flings shit at each other while screeching like gorillas in a zoo. Think I saw a video like that in a private collection we confiscated as evidence once. Who knows? Perhaps such extreme methods are necessary countermeasures against the excessive stress rampant in our fast-paced modern society. Or something. In any case, let's double-check our luggage and the stuff we bought on the way, then take a breather. Man, talking about scat, that reminds me back when I was still in middle school. Friends of mine actually found this website. It was a Japanese website that was full of scat. I was like, holy shit, what the fuck is going on? It was definitely... Nowadays though, I guess it's like, yeah, that's weird, but I guess I've seen weirder shit from all the games that I've played. I lower my personal baggage and the bread-making machine Amane foisted on me onto the floor of our little room. Always nice to get a little weight off your shoulders. Guess we'll start by emptying the backpack, then move on to reviewing the supplementary items we picked up on the way here. But before I can begin, a woman's ecstatic voice comes flooding into the room from the other side of one paper-thin wall. Jeez. Sexy in anime is so... Well, technically this is like a parody. It's not meant to be sexy, but it's so dumb. Well, the place is what it is, so we can't exactly complain. But seriously now. Sure. It's an animal, technically speaking. Man, the voice actor must have fun voicing this stupid dialogue. Seems to be saying Bumo. Maybe it's some strange variety of cattle. I don't know what the hell is a genie. Genu? The word's pronounced new, actually. I absolutely have no idea what that is. Speaking of little busters, Rin was also voiced by the voice actress. I wonder if that has anything to do with why they went the fugitive route in this writing scenario for her. Well, hey, don't kick the walls. They're thin. It'd be ridiculously awkward if you tore a hole and we ended up face to face with those people. Who the hell's Eugene supposed to be? Crap. When you repeat it like that, it actually starts to sound a little funny. That's a Japanese wordplay that I am... It flew over my head. I cannot translate that, or I cannot like tell you guys what that means. This exceptionally boisterous rat motel should make for a good temporary base of operations. For one thing, it's completely incompatible with the gloomy pathos that so often comes with being on the run. And although I'd been planning to set about establishing early warning measures against intruders, it doesn't seem like that's going to be strictly necessary. Once the bellowing water buffalo in the next room falls silent, the only sound we can hear is the television the half-deaf owners cranked up to maximum volume in our office. Even the usual noise of the city doesn't reach us here. On top of which, this building seems to have been standing since before the war, judging by its noticeable state of deterioration. The whole structure creaks and groans audibly just from people walking down the avenue outside, so the building itself is basically its own intruder alarm. I'm pretty surprised I am like reading out these sentences very naturally considering how long I haven't really read anything or, you know, just speak English in general because I speak Indonesian here in Indo. We've got 3 entrances and exits, front, back, and emergency. But outside the back, there's a grizzled old Shiba dog tied up that growls and barks every time someone draws near, presumably the old lady's pet. Although it's definitely getting on in years, the animal seems to be a dedicated veteran with a long history of service guarding the back gate. Whether it's lovebirds sneaking around in hopes of a free stay, or suspicious characters from the Yakuza offices lingering about, the Shiba watchdog barks persistently at all who approach as if trying to wear out its own throat. That voice possesses the dignity of a proud and trustworthy professional. As for the emergency exit, you have to scratch your head at this one. Even though it's supposed to be the resident's escape route in case of trouble, the thing doesn't open. Someone from the fire department does seem to have stopped by for a lecture, since there's a green light at the end of the hall indicating the exit, but the door itself just won't budge. Completely befuddled, I circle around the outside of the building to take a look, only to discover a presumably abandoned bicycle, a brilliant red wedged. Red wedged? Red wedged? I guess that's how you say it, right? Between the emergency exit and the building next door. Yeah, I think it's supposed to be wedged, not like jid. Doesn't matter how hard you push from the inside, this thing isn't going to open. And if you try to remove this obstacle from the outside, you'd make a hell of a lot of noise doing it. Not exactly an ideal situation from a safety code standpoint, but this would pose a minor but aggravating problem for any intruders. I decide to leave it as it is. Finally, there's the front entrance. The 5 square meter space you come into immediately on entering the building is the manager's office and reception area all in one. The extent of the security here is the half-deaf old lady herself, sitting behind her desk watching period dramas and decades-old suspense serials. Not much sign she's even trying to keep an eye on things. A few minutes into my observation, she abruptly pushes herself to her feet with a grunt of "Oopsie daisy," then opens the door of the manager's office and wanders out into the street. I spend 15 minutes wondering what's so important that the woman left her building completely unattended, at which point she returns with a box of cigarettes in her hand. Seems she hobbled down to the local liquor store to get herself some smokes. I think it's safe to conclude her management of the premises is somewhat on the perfunctory side? Oh my god, what is that? Is that like unsatisfactory? Yuji, stop talking like this, man. I forgot how much of a snob Yuji is. Well, better than no one at all, probably. But just to be on the safe side, I decided to install a single motion detecting security light I purchased at the hardware store under the eaves at the front of the building. The old lady accepts this easily enough, apparently deeply impressed to learn that in our convenient modern world, a mere 3,200 yen can buy you a light that flips on automatically when people approach. That's actually pretty expensive considering you can buy that pretty cheap over here, probably like $5. Then again, the quality is probably different. A lot of the stuff here is made in China, while over there it's probably made in Japan. It's all about durability when it comes to Chinese products and like products that are from everywhere. I don't believe in products that are from Indo though. They kinda are pretty frail themselves. After a thorough secondary check of the surrounding area, including potential nearby sniping spots, I returned to find Makina already quietly asleep on top of her futon. Not surprising that she'd be tired out after all that walking and switching trains we did today. But the girl didn't even bother to change first. She's curled up in her clothes. Hey Makina, at least get undressed before you go to sleep. Oh, the sprites for the game are also uncensored, so because I don't really want to be on YouTube's bad side anymore. Every time there's a sprite that's uncensored, I'm probably just gonna cut that. So you guys might be missing a scene. I'll explain the context though after the scene is done. But for people on Patreon, don't worry, you guys are safe. Nothing's gonna be cut over there. Amani is not here. Man, we're gonna have sex, aren't we? What a pain in the ass. Well, maybe it's not that big a deal under the circumstances. If anything, it's safer than need to pull her clothes on in a panic in the event of a raid. Guess we can just go to bed like this for today. Come on, Makina. Move over a little. I can't get in. Don't say new, kid. Given the layout of this room, it's more convenient if we sleep in one place. Are we actually not gonna have sex? Wow, color me surprised. Well, what is that noise though? From now on, it's like white noise that's going on. And it's not like it's from the game. It's not from my microphone. I don't know if you guys can hear it. I hear it. From now on, we'll be living every day listening as the enemy's footsteps approach from behind. With no guarantee we'll even be alive tomorrow. The easy, peaceful life we enjoyed only a few days ago is over now. Why are they so determined to torment this girl? My head hurts. My damn head really hurts. Yeah, see? I knew it. It was the game, right?
ああ、失態だね。これは大失態だよ、ハルデラ君。まさか君が飼い犬に手を噛まれるとはね。
申し訳ありません。
勇敢である君には随分と目をかけてきたつもりだし、私もそれなりの便宜を図ったつもりだったが、これは私に見る目がなかったということなのかな。
I hope you guys didn't hear that. I think you guys did. I kind of cuffed. Yeah, I think you guys did. I kind of messed myself. I was supposed to just press the button to mute the mic, but I was holding it.
いえ、決してそのようなことは。
Sorry, technical difficulties happened because I'm not used to this again.
でもさ、君、実際逃げちゃったんだろ ?9029 号がさ。そりゃね、9029は特別な番号だ。過去の経歴を含め、君に一任するのがベストだと思っていたさ。何せ君は、あの命令無視の常習犯だった日下部麻子をコントロールできる唯一の人間だったんだからね。それがどうだい、今回のこのざまは。首輪を引きちぎって逃げたって言うならまだいいさ。どうせ名簿には乗っちょいない男だ。こっそりと処分してしまえばいいだけの話だ。だが安泰を連れて逃げたとなれば、そりゃ話は別だよ君。これはもう命令無視なんて話じゃない。国家反逆罪だよ。どう責任を取るつもりなのかね。
申し訳ありません。
ハルデラ君、君ね。私は別に謝ってもらいたくてこんなことを言ってるわけじゃないんだよ。
は
あ、ハートはなんだね、ハートは。まったく冗談じゃないよ。小から小になってやっとオフィスの看板を掲げられるようになったかと思えばこの不始末だ。君ね、うちはただでさえ外資外資と煙たがられているってのに、これ以上私の立場を悪くしないでくれよ。休日に子供とも遊ばずに勉強して私がどんな絨毯の個室を手に入れたと思っているのかね。
知らないわよ。
何か言ったかね。
いえ、空耳か被害妄想ではありませんか。
とにかくだ。9029号の立ち寄り先の予想リストをすぐに用意してくれたまえ。
I can't believe he just ignored what she said there. Interesting.
ですから先ほど説明させていただいた通り、9029号が逃亡した場合、一度でも足を踏み入れた場所は避けるはずです。過去に9029号が住んでいた場所や任務で訪れた場所を除外したリストは提出済みです。それとこれはあくまでも勘の域を出ない推測ですが、9029号はかなりの高確率で都内に、それもここからそう遠くない場所に潜伏していると思われます。
What was that saying? Hide a tree in a forest, right?
それは飼い主としての直感かね。一応君の言う通りに二種装備の捜査官を待機させてはいるが、漠然と都内と言われてもだね。
クローバー12より緊急、内容29を発見、現在追尾中。
That was fast.
場所は
港区新橋2丁目、烏森神社方面から汐留方面へ向けて徒歩で移動中。服装は黒のスーツに青系のネクタイ、手荷物の類は所持認められず、指示を求めております。
Black suit and a blue necktie? I don't think we're using suits. I know we use a necktie because that's our school uniform.
安泰はイリス・マキナは一緒にいるのか？
いえ、単独です。
I'm guessing we're trying to bait out people to come to us.
よし、確保だ。
いえ、ダメですよ。そのまま尾行を続けさせてください。ここは下手に刺激せずに、新宿と渋谷の実動を応援に回して、潜伏先を突き止める方が先決です。
確保して尋問すれば済む話ではないのかね。
相手は9029号なんですよ。
君は今自分が置かれている立場を理解しているのか？君にはオブザーバーとしての意見は求めても作戦に対する決定権は与えられてはいない。
He makes a good point.
では、ご自身の責任で発令を。私はステイを進言したということをお忘れなく。
まあいいだろう。ファレル君、とりあえずは現状維持だ。
了解。クローバー12 This is Queen. Not contact.
It's very interesting when I hear Japanese try to try to do English. Some of them are actually pretty good, like the one in AI Somnium Files. If you play in Japanese voices, some of the foreigners actually speak in English there, and it's pretty good. I don't know if they actually use English voice actors for those foreign guys, but those are actually good English. But this, you definitely know she's using an accent.
Maintenance of the status quo. Repeat. Not contact. Maintenance of the status quo.
私は中央発令所に入る。君も来るかね？
いえ、私が行っても場が乱れるだけでしょう。こちらで待機させていただきます。
場合によっては君の身柄も拘束されることになる。覚悟しておきたまえ。
はい。はあ、疲れた。お疲れ様です、先輩。コーヒーいかがですか？うん、お願い。デカフェで？うん、カフェインたっぷりでお願い。なんかもう飲まなきゃやってらんないって感じ？本部長の嫌味節ねちっこいですからね。内閣府で石部副長官の腰銀軸をやってた頃からあんな性格だったって噂ですよ。あまり言わないであげてよ。あれでも一応うちの立役者なんだから。あれ？どうしたの？嘘、なんで？報告しなさい。何があったの？クローバー12シグナルロスト。一体何が？地下に降りたわけではなくて？違います。場所は東口中央広場で。はっ！今度は何？造営に向かったトランプがハート9、スペード6、ダイヤエース、シグナルロスト。どういうこと？そんなの私に聞かれても困りますよ。ただシグナルがロストしたということは発信機を破壊されたか殺された。残りのトランプは？ハートジャックのみですが、まだ配属2ヶ月の新人です。ハートということは女性工作員ね。若いの？はい、まだ24歳ですね。その子、胸は大きい？は？バストは大きいかと聞いているのよ。
Damn you, anime!
ちょっと待ってください。身長172センチで、バストは88センチですね。それが何か。
What is this?
9029は巨乳に甘いのよ。いいわ。その子には即刻引き上げ命令を出しなさい。
So dumb.
でもそんな命令勝手に出したらまた本部長に。このままでは全滅すると中央に伝えなさい。それと事後処理班を現場に急がせて。責任は私が取ります。急ぐ。はい。ユージ。
What on earth are you thinking? I mean, I don't know. I'm seeing from your perspective right now, JB. I'm right here, Machina.
もう心配するじゃんかさ。勝手にどっか行ったらダメなのよ。どこ行ってやがったのよさ。
Just cleaning up the neighborhood a little.
掃除？
Notice a few rats skulking around. One of them got away, but I took care of the rest. You don't have anything to worry about.
そっか。
Look, it's still 3:30 in the morning. You can sleep a little longer.
わかった。
That's right. Nothing to worry about. Just leave everything to me. For the time being, I've chased off the suits. The next ones they send will probably be Special Forces or SAT. I guess, well, whatever. Hardly matters. Whoever comes, I'll just take them out one by one. Ah, shit. My head's killing me. God damn it. I guess Yuji's forcing himself to kill people, huh?
もうどうしてこういうことになるのかね。ハルテラ君。
現状維持命令を解除するからですよ。相手は9029号だと言ったはずです。
ああ、君はいつもそうしてその番号を口にするが、所詮は2代目じゃないか。そこまで大騒ぎするようなことかね。
その油断の結果はご自分で確認されたのではありませんか？襲撃された工作員に死人は出ましたか？
いや、重傷者は出たが4人命に別状はない。
ということはまだ封印は解けていないということですね。
Okay, so he's not killing yet.
9029号風見雄二には草壁麻子だけが解くことのできた封印がかかっています。元来風見雄二という男は臆病で気が小さく殺人を好むような人間ではありませんし、幼少期の体験がもとで殺人に対する強い精神的外傷を持っていて、殺人という行為に自我を保てないほどの極度の恐怖感情を持っています。
それは資料で読ませてもらったが、殺人が好きな子供などそうはいまい。それで普通なのではないかね。
資料はちゃんと目を通していただけたのですか？
効果表には目を通した。
そんな成績表だけで理解できるほど単純ではありません。
十分だよ。風見雄二は12歳の時、実の父親を殺している。それが原因でトラウマを抱えているという話だろう。
本人がそう信じているだけで実際に殺したわけではありません。
だが結果的には父親は死んでいる。同じことだ。つまり何が言いたいのかね、君は。簡潔に説明してくれたまえよ。私も忙しい身でね。資料を読み込む時間もなければ、君の長話に付き合っている時間もないのだよ。
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. After being in like a managerial position, even though it was only for a brief time, I could actually understand why Otsuka is this way. I actually harbor somewhat of that attitude myself when I was doing it. It was pretty hectic, man, especially for the first month. You got really no time to just read documents. You actually had to go a lot of places.
父親の殺害、そして母親の自殺。この2つの死を風見雄二は自分のせいだと信じています。そして幼かった彼はその呵責に耐えることができなかった。そしてその呵責を取り除くために草壁麻子は彼に暗示をかけたのです。弱い者を守るために戦ったのだから何も間違っていない。
その結果、風見雄二は殺人を事故で正当化できるようになったというわけ。
I thought she was done. Sorry about that.
いいえ、違います。彼は幼い頃に両親を殺害したのも、これまでの任務で暗殺してきたテロリストも、全部自分の右腕に取り付いた悪魔が勝手にやったことだと信じるようになったのです。
Damn you, anime! Fucking Yuji took Chunibyo to the full extent. Holy shit. I mean, I guess technically speaking, a lot of people that suffer when I guess, like I joke about this, but I guess people who actually murder people, to some degree, actually believe in all this. To the average person like myself, of course, it's like foolish because I never killed anyone. But in the workings of someone who has murdered before, that actually does make sense. To make themselves, relieve, right, that they're not the one that does the actual killing.
わからんな。なぜそういうことに。
子供ながらに最も安直な回答である俺のせいじゃないという答えに逃げ込んだ結果でしょう。
なるほど。そういうことなら理解できないでもないか。
でしょうね。
何？どういう意味かね。
他意はありません。
つまりだ。自分のせいではない。全ては悪魔の仕業だと信じることで、風見雄二は暗殺任務に従事することができていた。そしてその暗示をかけることができたのが日下部麻子だったと。そういうことかね。
いえ、逆です。悪魔のせいにすることで片っ端から人を殺してしまう風見雄二を暗示で押さえつけていたのが日下部麻子です。
まったく複雑だな。つまり風見雄二に殺人許可を出していた日下部麻子はもういないのだから安全なのではないのか。事実。
Oh, sorry. Damn it.
違います。人を殺すなと暗示をかけ続けていた麻子はもういないのです。いつ暗示という封印が解けてしまうか予想がつきません。
その暗示というやつは簡単に解けてしまうようなものなのかね。
わかりません。ただ一つ言えることは、この暗示は麻子の言葉をキーワードとした風見雄二自身の自己暗示と思われます。もし風見雄二にとって日下部麻子と同等、もしくはそれを超える存在を意識したとき、同時に自己暗示も解けてしまう可能性が高いと思われます。
自己暗示が解けた場合、風見雄二はどうなる？
自分の守るべき対象にとって有害であると認識したものを片っ端から排除していくことでしょう。日下部麻子が健在であれば、そんな風見雄二も道具としてコントロールも可能でしたが、今となっては。
道具とはどういう意味かね。
極めて殺傷能力の高い国防装置という意味です。ですが今はそう、例えるなら手榴弾のようなものです。手榴弾には不用意な暴発を防ぐためにセーフティーピンが刺さっています。そのたった一本のチャチなピンがあるから腰にぶら下げて歩くことができるのです。
Man, if the higher-ups actually know about this, Yuji would have been dead like long ago. The only reason they probably don't know about this is because they've just been looking at the evaluation and he's like, yeah, this guy's a good killing machine when we need him.
そしてそのピンを引き抜き敵陣に投げ込むのが戦士。風見雄二のピンを抜けるのは戦士である日下部麻子だけだった。私たちは日下部麻子の道具である風見雄二をいじくり回しているうちにピンを抜いてしまいそうになっているのです。目的もなくピンを抜かれた手榴弾は誰であろうと区別なくその場にいる人間をすべて巻き込んでひき肉にします。日下部麻子がいない今、ピンが抜けてしまえばおそらく彼は暴走するでしょう。殺しの手札に迷いがなく、他者を殺害することに遠慮もなく、殺したことへの呵責もない。そうなってしまえばもう誰にも止められません。
なに、殺せば止まるさ。どんな人間でもね。壊れた部品を使い捨てにするようで心苦しい限りだが、彼には殉職してもらおう。それで構わないね。
Man, the more Otsuka talks, the more I actually feel like my mentality is like him. Sure, it's like kind of condescending way, but he's right.
お任せします。
まったく面倒な狂犬を逃がしてくれたもんだ。私は中央に戻るが、 何か思い出したことがあればいつでも連絡してくれたまえ。
I wish you had an actual sprite, Otsuka. I feel you, man. I understand you.
はい。参った。何かあるたびに私のところへ来るの勘弁してくれないかしら。
なんかえらいことになってきましたね。
あなた仕事しているふりしながら盗み聞きしてたわね。
嫌だな、ちゃんと仕事してましたよ。先輩が提出した風見雄二の資料大体読み終えました。何やら凄まじい過去と経歴ですね。
そう？うちではそれほど珍しくもないでしょうに。その手の不幸を背負った犬なんてうちにはゴロゴロいるわよ。
本部の方ではどうするつもりなんでしょうね。
さあ、でもまあ CSS や NSA の捜査員では限界があるでしょうし、今頃本部長は本社のお偉いさんと特殊作戦部隊を何単位派遣してもらえるのか交渉してるんじゃないかしら。
本国の精鋭が出向してくるとなると、さすがの902も店じまいですね。
そうね、生きて戻ってくる確率はほぼゼロでしょうね。けどあの子は日下部麻子が育てた犬よ。一度牙を剥いた相手にはたとえ手足をもがれようとはって飛びつき喉笛に食らいつけ、首を落とされても睨みつけて呪い殺せと訓練されてるわ。子犬の頃から年間6万ドルもの税金をかけて育てた犬よ。私たちは一番厄介な犬を敵に回しているという事実から目を背けてはいけないのよ。
I'm trying to actually think how much that is. That is basically a college. That's basically how much you spend for college. Holy shit. And that's only a year. How long has he been training for?
でも
Even if you wipe out the enemies who come for you, they're never going to stop coming, Yuji. When I was a child, there were nights when my head ached so painfully I couldn't sleep. I don't know why. I think a doctor my mother took me to said something about stress being the cause. It began with something that felt like a slight fever. Soon, my head would begin to throb painfully in time with the beating of my heart. I didn't think it was stress. I thought I was starving for something. For affection. Or love. Something like that. Some frustrated longing was making its impossible demands on me. One evening, I suffered an unusually severe headache on my way home from school and crouched down on the roadside in agony. I looked around the area, my vision hazy and periodically obscured by pure white flashes of pain, but couldn't find anyone who seemed likely to help me. But that was only to be expected. It was natural. Nobody's going to volunteer for the thankless hassle of looking after some sick kid they've never seen before. I thought as much myself, so I'm sure the people passing by felt the same. True? Dragging my heavy legs forward as if slogging through knee-deep mud, propping myself up against the wall, I crept my way home all by myself. When I finally reached my house after what felt like hours of miserable effort, my big sister met me at the door. The instant she saw my face, it felt like my sister spoke some concerned words. But apparently my ears weren't working properly. I couldn't understand what she was saying. When I thought about the painful, lonely struggle I just endured, her sympathy only grated on my nerves. I snarled bitterly that it was a little late for her to help now. My big sister's face crumpled miserably. I knew I'd done something wrong, something worth apologizing for, but I didn't have the composure to tell her I was sorry. Ignoring my sister as she tried to speak to me again, I moved past her and into our bedroom. I couldn't even muster the willpower to climb up to the top of the bunk bed where I slept. Instead, I opened the closet, collapsed inside it, then slit the door shut with the last of my strength. I liked cramped places. I liked dark places. I felt most at ease holed up in places too small for others to enter. It felt like I was safe there, like I was cocooned in the cockpit of a powerful robot. There was nothing to be afraid of in there. The pain, so intense that it felt as though my skull was cracking apart, began to ease little by little. I wanted to stay there. I wish I could curl up in that closet forever and never have to leave. Even knowing that was spoiled, pointless escapism, I couldn't help but indulge in it. When night came, my sister woke me up. She asked me if I had calmed down, and I realized that I had. I felt almost refreshed, in fact, but at the same time, there was a tickle of awkward self-reproach. That's right, I need to apologize for snapping at her. Just as my thoughts reached that conclusion, I felt a sharp pain in my right hand. When I looked down, I noticed the wound in my right fist, deep enough to expose bone. I had no memory of injuring myself so badly. As I puzzled over when it could possibly have happened, my sister spoke to me in a subdued murmur. "It seems your homeroom teacher committed suicide." For a moment, I couldn't process the meaning of those words. Suicide? In other words, the man took his own life. Even as I wondered why, a smug sense of satisfaction welled up inside me. I hated that teacher with a passion. He never complimented me when I succeeded, sneering at the smallest signs of pride. He focused exclusively on my failures, belittling me as a defective human being. He hurt me every single day. The man seemed to have entered the teaching profession just so he could reenact the miseries of his own childhood on his pupils. I'd silently urged him to die many times. It felt like what he deserved. I looked down at my right fist, covered in congealed blood. Did I kill him? While I was unconscious with this headache, did my body crawl out of this closet all on its own? Did this hand kill my teacher? That anxiety stretched on indefinitely. When my head began its brutal aching, somebody would experience misfortune. The pattern repeated itself several times. My head hurts. I want something, badly. But as always, I can't even tell what it is I'm longing for. That thirst for something never did go away. I want help. Anyone will do. If anyone would reach out a hand to me, I'd probably cling to them and cry like a child. At this rate, it feels like I'm going to go crazy. I want to be alone. I want a cramped place where I can take refuge. I want to curl up in a dark place and sink it to death as if falling asleep. It was always my sister who opened the closet door and brought me out of my seclusion. There were times when I wished she wouldn't, when I found her irritating. And my sister died in a traffic accident. I didn't hate my sister, or even dislike her. If anything, it'd be no exaggeration to say she was the reason I was able to keep on living. Even so, my sister died. Why did she die and leave me behind alone? The question did inspire some reproachful feelings. But I still remember the look on her face that day when I answered her kindness with a snarl of irrational anger. And I never did apologize. I could never manage to say the simple words, "I'm sorry for yelling at you." It always weighed on my mind. When I think of my sister, her troubled expression on that afternoon always flashes before my eyes. I can't stand it anymore. I wish everything would just come to an end. But maybe all of this was my fault. I gnawed on my possessed right hand until it bled. And 1 year after that, just as I'd wished somewhere deep down inside, the devil in my right hand took everything from me. My father died, and my mother as well. I must have been the one who killed them. All of them. I slaughtered all of them. I'm the lowest of the low. I was a vile monster in the body of a child, and the person who took me in was an even more terrible creature. In the place of my father, who had died leaving only depths behind, that man brought me to his mansion to live like a dog. Every day was pain. Nothing but pain. Bitter, excruciating pain, beyond my capacity to endure. To escape that suffering, I would have gladly committed suicide. But I couldn't die. Not when they punched me until the bones in my face shattered. Not when they kicked me until my organs seemed to burst. Not when they covered me in gasoline and set me on fire. I felt pain, I suffered, but no matter what they did to me, I never managed to die. The devil in my right hand must have forbidden it. I'd forfeited the right to live as a human being. But maybe that wasn't all. Maybe I'd lost even the right to die. What was so valuable about my existence, preserved at the cost of so much blood and suffering? Why was the devil keeping me alive? I didn't know. Forget the meaning of my life. I couldn't understand the reason I wasn't dead. I reached my limit. The thirst grew so agonizing I was beginning to wonder if it would ever stop swelling inside me. Since things had gone this far, I had no choice but to purge myself of the devil that was the source of my suffering and thirst. I began by smashing my right hand against the concrete wall of my basement room, but the pain was so strong I couldn't help easing off. I tried slicing it off with a knife instead, but whenever I tried to cut through the nerve, agony ran through my entire body, so it was difficult to keep pressing the blade down. All I managed was to cut myself deeply. The bones in my wrist were getting in the way, so I tried to scrape them down with the knife first, but the thick blood that spouted out made the blade slip and slide around, so I couldn't grind away very well. And every time the blade did catch in the bone, the grating movement jarred my skull with sickening vibrations. In the end, I simply fainted from the pain. The adults in the mansion tied me up with ropes to prevent me from mutilating myself any further, and they whispered in my ear the same words, repeated many, many times. Nobody needs you. Nobody wants you. Even your family despised and resented you. No one in the world loves you. No one in the world is on your side. Everyone is your enemy. Hate them. Hate them all. Anyone your eyes can see is your enemy. They made you suffer. They disgraced your family. They trampled your friends underfoot. That is the nature of your enemy. Kill them all. You have my permission. Slaughter them like cattle. Hate everything. Kill everything. That is your only road to salvation. And so I killed. All of them. Everyone. I might have killed my sister. I murdered my own parents. But even after all that killing, I still haven't been saved. Why not? Haven't I killed enough by now? Ah, that's right. I haven't killed myself yet. I'm not finished yet. I've got to take my own life. But how? I can't just murder myself. I don't know how it's done. Nobody ever taught me. What do I need to do before I can die? I spent 2 weeks without eating any food. My arms grew thin as the branches of a dead tree. My front teeth fell out, and my fingernails grew soft and began to warp away from the skin underneath. When I reached up and touched my head, hair came out in clumps, but there was no pain. It seemed that I was simply going to wither away to a mummy. I would sleep in my crypt, waiting for the day when someone would offer me blood. However many years it took, however many decades, however many centuries, until someone who can save me appears, until my sister comes to wake me up. Yuji. Yes, that was my name. My sister always called me that. Until my sister calls again, I can only wait. In a slumber so deep, I'll forget even my own name. I wanted someone to pull me up out of this hell as quickly as possible. But I had fallen into hell for a reason. I had done an evil thing. This was only natural. This was my punishment. When I came to, I was in an unfamiliar room. It wasn't my basement prison. There was a window. The pale bluish light of the moon flowed in, and the air felt a little cold against my skin. On nights like this, where the moon hung fat and swollen in the sky, my sister used to moan in an awful tone of voice from the bunk bed below my own. It was always like that on the nights when the moon was full. Suffering, sadness, desperation. Her voice had many different emotions too strong for words. It frightened me when my sister moaned. I would wrap myself up in my blanket on the upper bed, covering my ears tightly, but still, the voice seemed to pass through my skull and burrow directly into my brain. That overly bright moonlight flowing in from outside the window must have driven me mad. I stood up from my bed, approached the window, and looked out. A single girl stood beneath a snowstorm of sakura petals dancing on the wind. Her back turned to me. What was she doing out there at this time of night? In the first place, Who on earth was she? As those questions drove every other thought through my mind, the girl turned around and smiled brightly. Our eyes met. Overwhelmed by the uncomfortable feeling that I'd been peeping on her somehow, I willed myself to pull back and hide. But for some strange reason, I couldn't move my body even an inch. It was almost as though the force of her gaze had pinned my moonlight-cast shadow to the ground. As I stood stock still by the window, the girl softly raised her right hand toward me and began to speak. My ears were ringing. The girl's voice couldn't reach me. When I concentrated on the girl's mouth as she repeated herself, I read the softly spoken words from the movement of her lips. Over here, Yuji. She was calling for me, clearly and simply. And when I focused on her with complete concentration, her voice itself became clear as a bell, sinking deeply into my mind.
こっちにおいで、ユージ。
The girl was definitely saying that. As she offered me her outstretched hand, tears began to roll down my face. Can I really take her hand? Is it really alright for the likes of me to take that hand? The instant our fingers intertwined, the devil in my right hand might kill the girl. My body began to tremble and I was afraid. This is a dream. I want to wake up right away. When I see dreams like these, my right hand always tries to kill someone. I can't take anymore. I don't want to lose anyone else.
Papa?
Snapped abruptly back to a familiar voice against my earlobe. I saw a girl crouched down at my side. That girl, her eyes full of concern, spoke to me.
パパ、また泣いてるの？
Ah, hey Makina. I'm fine. It's nothing.
なんでもなくないよ。どうしていつも泣いているの？
No, really. It's no big deal. Men just wake up crying sometimes. Sort of like a wet dream, you know? Don't worry about it. To some degree, I can kinda relate to Yuji. I lost my mother when I was quite young. And sometimes when you're a kid, you don't really have the necessary, like, brain power, or your brain is not developed enough. So even if you know that it's not your fault, sometimes you just blame yourself. Maybe it's my fault. Though, of course now, I know for a fact that it's not my fault, but what you felt, it's not something that can just disappear, I feel. So, sometimes I still feel that, self-blame that I had as a kid. It's very dangerous. This sort of feelings are very, very dangerous. So, to all the adults out there, man, especially to myself, I definitely don't want my kids, if I ever had my kid, to feel what I felt.
どうしてそんな怖い顔をしているの？私には話せないことなの？
Of course, my tragedy is definitely not as bad as what Yuji's facing, but you know, I can probably relate to like 20% of what he's facing. Yeah, that's right. Do with you, so you don't have to worry about it.
そんなのずるいよ。私だけ助けてもらって、私じゃパパを助けてあげられないの？
Makina.
話すのが辛いなら何も聞かない。それに私あんまし頭良くないから、きっと話してもらっても上手に慰めてあげられない。だからね、前にね、あまねえが言ってたの。
Damn you, loot game! I am not going to censor this, at least on Patreon. I will see you guys on YouTube after this scene though. But for you guys in Patreon, this video right here, the one that I'm currently recording, I will have my voiceover on it, and the voice for scenes are also a-okay to be played. But I will also be making a separate folder for just the arrows and the voices for you guys that want to do something with them.
傷ついた男の人を慰めるのは女の裸が一番だって。
You know, to some degree, I think a lot of old people do think that way, Machina. I personally think it's just escapism, though. At the end of the day, I think, I don't know, alcohol, women, a lot of pleasures in life are just plain escapism. We can never really be free from our personal suffering, to be honest. Sometimes we just need to forget. What, so you're doing the slut routine now?
ビッチでいいのよ。私はパパだけのビッチなのよさ。だからこっちにおいで、パパ。
Those words sent a jolt of surprise through my body. I've only just realized the voice of that girl in the dream, the voice that seemed to sink into the depths of my heart, was Machina's. The girl who waited all that time, all those years, her hand patiently outstretched, offering to lead me out of hell. Never would have thought she turned out to be a stumpy little airhead like this, but here we are. I find myself wrapping my arms around Machina, clinging to her like a child. Yeah, you're something else, Machina. Machina laughs happily as I drop my hand on her head and ruffle her hair around.
じゃあ続きして。もう我慢できないから私の小さい入れてよ。
Look, I don't know. Would it be too much to ask for a slightly sexier way of phrasing that?
色っぽくわかったねえパパほら見て私のおまっきょもうこんなにぐっしょりなのはいくぱーっと見える
You know, I'm probably gonna put like these blank, like dark, no CG like conversations on the YouTube because they are just so golden. You guys are missing out when you guys are not looking at the sex scenes for this game. I am actually very thankful for people that recommended me to play the unrated version. Damn, because that sex scene I actually thoroughly enjoyed, and we're not even done yet. Mind you, I think this sex scene has gone for about 20 minutes. Just to put into perspective how important some of the stuff they talk about is. Well, yes, I do.
ほらついこの間まで少女だった桜色のおまっぽなのよ突っ込んでみたくないいいのよ好きに突っ込んでぐちゃぐちゃしても
Is it just me, or is this less sexy and more slow in the head?
もうちっとぐらい頭悪い方が女はモテるのよっていうか本当に入れてよダメ
Yeah, I think that's something a lot of Japanese girls do a bit too much, I think. Like this whole girls are more popular when they're a little dumb. Girls in Japan actually, I think, play dumb a lot. They're actually a lot more smart than they let on. Just kind of weird. I mean, I don't mind that when, you know, you're like acting it sometimes, but if you're doing that every single time, it gets like weird. Just my personal opinion. You don't have to give me the puppy dog eyes, alright? Whatever. Come over here.
前回はバックだったから、今回はザイがいい。ザイ。パパの膝の上にまたがってチップを入れて、正面でべったりと抱き合うみたいにして、べちょべちょってキスしながら、ズンズン下から突き上げて。
You got a very specific list of demands there.
仕方がないのよさ。だって私はキスが大好きなのだから。もうね、顔がベッタベタになるぐらいデロンデロンにキスしながら食べたい。そう思うのは贅沢ですかね。
Yeah, I got it. Face-to-face sitting position, right? Here we go. I thrust my hand under Makina's armpits and hoist her up into the air. Spare me the uho, kid. You ready? I'll lower you down.
待って待って、位置が合ってないのよ。このままじゃケツにズブリなのよさ。もうちょっと前。ちょっと。オッケー、下ろして。
So stupid. Here goes. And for the people of YouTube, we are back. That is a 35 to 40 minute H scene. The H scene in, what is it, Meteor World Actor is at most 10 minutes because there is no actual dialogue in that. It's just purely for people to fap to. My god, the difference. Now I understand why people made me play this game unrated because damn, I actually felt sad during the beginning part of that sex scene. By the time the sun's risen cleanly above the horizon, my body's starting to wake up. Trots over to the corner, unplugs our small fridge from the outlet, then connects the cord for her breath-making machine in its place. I was just lying in bed spacing out, watching the girl grinding her plug into the outlet while yelping, "Boumo!" I can't help breaking into laughter again. And deciding it's about time I get to work myself, I push my languid body up off the ground.
はい、パパンがパッとね。はいよ、お待たせ。パンが焼けたのよ。
Nice. Bring it here. What did you make for us today?
カレー好きなパパのために、今日はカレーパンなのよ。
Looks tasty.
ほんで、パパはさっきから何をしているのよさ。
Knitting socks for our baby. What the fuck?
ほう、靴下ってのはホームセンターで買った肥料から作るものなの？
That's right. It's a new synthetic fabric made from nitrogenous fertilizer. I'm guessing Yuji is actually making a bomb.
嘘よね。
Yeah, it's a lie. Bring me those 2 plastic containers lying over there, will you?
いいけど、何すんの？
I'm filling them up with a mixture of iron powder, vermiculite, and sawdust. Then adding activated charcoal and saline solution. Yup.
どんな靴下になるの？
The socks thing was a joke. In any case, let's go once I'm finished with these.
わかった。
The two of us don't have much in the way of cash on hand right now. Paying in advance for 10 days in this room didn't help. And we can't just start withdrawing cash or swiping credit cards, of course. There's no easier way to track a fugitive through the movements of their money. I did have a little bit of slush fund stashed away for a rainy day that the company doesn't know about, but I left that money with a third party connected to Osaka who's helped me out several times in the past. There's a chance that information might have leaked to Chigaya through JB, so I can't just wander over carelessly and knock on the front door. With my company as an enemy, it's proving frustratingly difficult to get my hands on cash. To be brutally honest, we're a pair of children up against a large organization run by deadly serious adults. I doubt our playground tricks will keep them off our trail for long. No matter how hard we run, 1 week would probably be an optimistic estimate. If the cards fall wrong, we might end up being taken into custody today. In the cold light of day, I can't help feeling that it would have been wiser to cool down and talk things over with JB at length, instead of thrashing around emotionally like this. But a straightforward negotiation strategy wasn't really an option. If the Irisu clan was feeling comfortable enough to indulgently hear out a child like me, they would have gone to an extreme measure like assassination in the first place. For the moment, I simply have no choice but to smack aside our pursuers one after the other. I've got a feeling today is going to be one hell of a long day. We'll see, Yuji.
突入時間15分前です。
各員配置についた？
非常口の担当員がまだです。扉の前に廃棄自転車が放置されているようですが、排除しますか？
排除しなければ扉は開かないの？
はい、そのようです。
ならそのまま放置。むしろ扉が開かないようにその場にしっかりと固定してしまいなさい。
了解。
Less than 12 hours after a commotion last night, specifically at 5 o'clock this morning, there was a misdial directly to my office from an outside line. Kiara Farrell answered, introducing herself as a receptionist at the fictional company we use to screen all outside calls. A young man on the other end of the line said, "I'm sorry, wrong number," then instantly hung up the phone. Some people are apparently still under the impression it takes time to trace a phone call, but that hasn't been true for decades. Today, everything is managed digitally, so it's possible to retrieve the relevant data instantly via J1? I have no idea what that is. I know what WAN is. Wide Area Network, but I don't know what the J stands for. Japan? Our trace revealed that the call had been placed from a public telephone installed in a park in Suginami Ward. We attempted repeated callbacks immediately after a man hung up on us, but no one picked up the receiver. Agents were dispatched to the site immediately. My hypothesis: the person who placed this call was almost certainly Kazami Yuji. Most likely, the nasty little brat was intending to stand by with a watch in one hand, measuring the time it would take for our agents to arrive. Should we arrive on scene within 10 minutes, he would learn there were active service personnel in the neighborhood. If, on the other hand, we were to take longer than 30 minutes, he could conclude that our net had been spread wide and thin. When your opponent gives your net an exploratory to try and use that against them. Assuming a scenario in which our personnel arrive on the scene on average of 7 minutes after the call, even if we began sprinting immediately after hanging up the phone, it would be difficult to cover more than 1.75 kilometers. Taking into account Kazami Yuji's athleticism, I arranged for all multi-story architectural structures 2,000-meter radius of the public telephone to be searched. 4 sites fit this criteria: the JTTC Hirasawa Building, Parkview, Central Tower Higashio, and Sun Avenue Clio. Plainclothes agents were dispatched to search all of these. 19 minutes later, I sent a dummy agent to put on a show of investigating the telephone itself. After 4 minutes of this, an agent spotted Kazami Yuji descending an emergency staircase on the high-rise apartment Parkview Suginami, a building which afforded an excellent view of the park below. We commenced shadowing him. A full hour of evasive maneuvering around the city ensued, but eventually, he led us back to a lodging facility that seems to be serving as his hideout. 11 agents relieved our pursuit team and settled in for surveillance. After 3 hours, they reported a confirmed sighting of our real target. I drew up a formal proposal for forcible entry and waited for the go-ahead from HQ. And just about half an hour ago, I received authorization. At present, a special ambush team consisting of 20 members, including backup, has been deployed around the building. The raid begins in another 10 minutes.
管理人の老婆を含め建物内の人間の退避が完了しました。突入10分前です。
気づかれた様子は？
I mean, of course.
サーモセンサーでの反応では室内の熱源は2つ。1つは部屋の右奥、もう1つは部屋の中央。30分前から動いていません。
動いていない。会話はあるの？
レーザー搭乗機による超音ではカーテンの影響で精密確認はできていませんが、テレビの音声らしきものが部屋の外からでも確認できていますので、おそらくはテレビを見ているのだと思われます。
嫌な予感がするわね。突入時間を30分延長して様子を見ましょう。
バカを言っちゃいけないよ、ハルデラ君。周辺道路を通行規制するのに一体いくらかかってると思うのかね。住宅地ではないのは幸いだが、あまり時間をかければ周辺店舗などの営利業務者からクレームがつくぞ。
です。
ですがじゃないよ君が提出したプランにはヘリまで申請してあったそうじゃないかたかが一匹の野良犬にどれだけ予算を使う気だねまったく
そんなもの後で請求書でも書いてうちから薩長から永田町から入助に回せばいいのでは
君そういったデリケートな話題はこの場では言及を避けたまえよ
そもそも私の提出したプランでは表向き不足第4条を適用したはずですが
しかし不発弾処理による周辺退避となるとマスクに対する粉飾の必要が出てくるだろう大掛かりな偽装は避けようとの通達はあったはずだ
万が一作戦が失敗した時のためのエクスキューズでもあります必要な粉飾です
I actually have no idea what the hell is embroidery.
だからといって災害派遣申請が通るのを待っていたら日が暮れてしまうよ君
突入開始時刻5分前です
よし突入
まだですよ5分前って言ってるでしょうが
Okay, Otsuka, like I was on your side for a while, but clearly just impatient now.
君そんなに怒らなくてもいいじゃないか
キアラ最終確認を
はい突入班アルファバックアップブラボー封鎖班チャーリー観測班デルタ救護班エコー各班連携完了です
いいかね重ねて確認するイリス・マキナはできるだけ無傷で確保すること彼女は強力なカードになる殺さずに確保を優先するように9029号が障害となる場合は強制的に排除して構わない現場にもう一度通達を
構わないわ伝えなさい
クイーンより各トランプへアリスを保護せよラビットが障害となる場合排除を許可する遅れ
For crying out loud, none of this is playing out the way I wanted it to. We may be part of a ministry instead of an agency now, with a nice sign outside our office, but all we really got out of the deal was a lot of politics and red tape. Our group was far lighter on its feet as a permanent combat unit. Admittedly, this is a fairly small-scale spot mission, but I can't even get a surveillance helicopter in the air, let alone airborne warning. My plan was already covered in red pen before it even made it up the chain to the brass, where it was promptly authorized in that mangled form with no alterations whatsoever. They cut giant holes in my strategy, then dumped it right back onto my desk. I'd at least the Arisu family signing off on this, but we're supposed to know what we're doing here.
デルタチームより緊急連絡建物周辺から爆発物反応を検知したそうです
種類は
二酸化窒素ですニトロ系ではないかとの報告です
なーに構わんよブリーフケースの中のマッチを爆発物だと騒ぎ出すような連中の報告だ気にすることはない作戦は続行する君ね安全な仕事がしたいのなら転職することを勧めるよアルデラ君
どうしますか間もなく突入時刻ですか
本部長
構わんと言っただろ突入だ突入
早速胃が痛くなってきたわ
突入開始時刻ですチームアルファ突入開始ワイヤートラップを解除建物内に侵入します
Nausea settles heavily in my stomach. At the same time, a hazy uneasiness swirls deep inside my chest. There's nothing I'd like more than to burst out of this room and run away. The queasiness in my stomach I owe to Director Otsuka's big-headed rashness, and I more or less understand where the gloominess in my heart is coming from as well. In any case, I've got a bad feeling about this. To be more precise, I've got a whole range of bad feelings about this, and not much else. Kazami Yuji is a shrewd man with the a wild animal. I can't help feeling we caught his tail far too easily. He should be approached as a potential It certainly looks as though we've cornered him, but even a small shift in events could reverse that dynamic entirely. No one's as light on their feet as those convinced of victory, and the lighter you are on your feet, the easier it is to knock you to the ground. I know Kazami Yuji learned that lesson well. all, I'm the one who taught it to him. In total darkness, I feel for the backlight button on my wristwatch and push it in. The time's exactly 9 a.m. As the watch buzzes softly and emits faint electroluminescent light, I catch a glimpse of Makina's face. Her expression is visibly anxious. It's time. You ready, Makina? Don't grab a rich man or an agent by the tail. That's the secret to living a long life. Even if you should happen to coincidentally discover an enemy spy performing their duties, don't assume you've just made your career. Agents are often compared to moles, but the single biggest difference between them and your average rodent is that agents are trained professionals. It's highly unlikely you're going to just stumble across one in the field. Implausibly so. Your first thought should be that they're trying to bait you somehow. As for the second biggest difference, in the spy population, there are a decent number of predators mixed in among the prey. Agents do more than skulk around and hide. Sometimes you'll find ones with nasty teeth, lying in wait to ambush you and rip a hole in your net. In short, never allow yourself to assume the spy you just randomly discovered is a careless idiot, and whatever you do, don't tag along back to his lair all by yourself dreaming of medals on your chest. The more enticing things appear, the more carefully you need to watch your ass. Success is directly proportional to cowardice. That's how you deal with an agent.
Ne, Papa.
What?
Samui.
Deal with it. 9/10 of the fugitive lifestyle comes down to toughing it out. I realized the building was surrounded at 7:30 a.m. If there's one thing I know about the brass at HQ, it's that they never miss a meal or a siesta. So I assume we'd have until after breakfast before the actual raid took place. And exactly as expected, they held back for precisely an hour and 30 minutes before finally making their move. During that delay, Makina and I finished all of our preparations, then quickly hid ourselves inside a large commercial refrigerator. Turns out, there's an enormous kitchen in this place, probably a remnant of some forgotten era when it was a hot spring hotel, and the fridge inside proved equally massive. A stainless steel refrigerator, in other words, an enormous lump of heat and salt insulating material, an ideal hiding place. After emptying the fridge of its contents and pulling out the shelves, Makina and I climbed inside, closing it behind us with a single towel wedged in the door. This way, we can simply yank on the towel to fling the door open, enabling us to jump out quickly if the need arises. Battle against time now. Hopefully they'll fall for the trap before we get hypothermia in here.
罠を解除するのに時間がかかったり、全部解除されちゃったらどうするの?
I took countermeasures against that. After everyone else in the hotel was quietly evacuated, I went around the building laying traps all over the place. I call them traps only in the loosest sense of the word. They're mostly extremely simple tripwires, and 80% are dummies. Carefully tracing the wire back to its source, you'll find many of them just harmlessly tied around a pillar. Might sound like nothing but a childish prank, but there are a few elaborate works of art mixed in there as well. I'm particularly proud of the little number installed in the door of the room we were staying in. Creeping along toward the room from the front entrance, painstakingly clearing one dummy wire trap, then another, you'll start to feel a little let down despite yourself. And then, just as you're beginning to think, are any of these things real? You'll run into that lunchbox. Lunchbox. Right, literally a lunchbox that once held a lunch. Specifically, the one Amane prepared for us before we left the dorm. Makina and I enjoyed the food inside last night. As she watched the empty box, Makina softly mumbled, "We can't go back, can we?" And I was struck by a thought. Lunchbox is standard slang in our profession for a time bomb. Seemed an appropriate choice for a sham threat. The lunchbox, connected to our door by a series of wires, currently contains a fake bomb constructed of random odds and ends. Taking a photograph with an X-ray camera would immediately reveal the contents to be junk. But if you arrange it carefully with a few plausible-looking parts here and there, you can produce something that's hard to distinguish from an irregular explosive device covered in unrelated trash. It's quite common to dump junk on top of the guts of an actual bomb. When the person looking it over says, "What? just a dummy, and opens a lid. It blows up in his face. Nasty prank that agents from the East are particularly fond of. But thanks to those dirty bastards, just sprinkling a little nitrogenous fertilizer over some random crap in a box is enough to leave professionals sweating bullets for a good 10 minutes. Drill a completely meaningless screw or two through the surface of the lunchbox, and they'll be pissing themselves for a good 20. It's an extremely helpful trick in certain circumstances. Some of the more high-tech bombs these days can detect penetration by X-rays, and others have thermometers that trigger an explosion if you try to use liquid nitrogen to defuse them. So you carefully disassemble this thing, trembling in your booties, discover it's yet another dummy. Had about enough of this crap by now, right? So you throw open the door to the room, where the final trap's waiting for you.
私のデジタルペットを使ったやつ？
That's right. Good luck dealing with that one. High-tech toys these days are made of some pretty impressive stuff in their own right. You'd be surprised what they can do. That digital machina is always carrying around is a good case in point. That cheap-looking plastic eggshell contains a tiny 3-axis geomagnetic sensor. A little rewiring and we've got ourselves an extremely detonator that can be triggered by the slightest movement. The world really is a convenient place these days. I mean, you can probably do that with your phone too, but alright, I guess those are cheaper. It all comes down to the 8 seconds after the enemy falls for that trap.
7個目のトラップを解除。またダミーです。また？
全部ダミーではないのかね。所詮は穴蔵に追い詰められたネズミの悪あがきだよ。
そう思わせるためのダミーです。油断はできません。
アルファ、対象が潜伏中の部屋の前に到着。扉に仕掛けられたランチボックスを発見。対処を開始します。
またかね。突入を開始してからもう10分以上経っているじゃないか。どうせそれもダミーだろ。
いえ、今度の装置からは微弱ですが、オシレータのクロックパルス音が検知できたそうです。何らかの電子回路が作動していると思われます。
どうやら本命というやつだな。できるだけ速やかに解除。
対象はまだ部屋の中にいるの？
はい、サーモセンサーによる熱源感知によれば対象は移動していないそうです。
そう。
デルタより緊急連絡。
今度は何かね。
いえ、対象潜伏中の室内の温度が上昇しているそうです。
室温が上昇？どういうことだね。
いけない。すぐに全員建物外に退避。
なんだね急に。説明したね。
対象は室内で可燃性ガスを飽和させている可能性があります。71年マリオとアントニオの兄弟テロリストが使った手です。
If I were more informed about those two, I probably would have been surprised about that reference, but sadly I do not know who those are.
建物に突入した特殊部隊を建物ごと爆破して18人を殺害しました。建物自体が罠なんですよ。すぐに退避を。
バカ。対象は建物の中だぞ。自爆する気か。
マリオ兄弟は大型の冷蔵庫の中に身を隠していたそうです。おそらく隊長も同様の手段を講じていると思われます。とにかく退避命令を。
JB, like this is mind game. JB is too smart for her own good.
は？今度は何？
アルファ、ドア開けちゃいました。
ちょっと。
Well, a bit too late though, JB.
状況、ガスです。室内から大量のガスが噴出中。
爆発は？
起きていません。吹き出したガスはどうやら市販の殺虫用燻煙剤のようです。総員、総面を完了。
殺虫剤だと？バカにしよって。室内の対象はどうした？
それが室内の熱源は灯油用のポリタンクに詰められた化合物による熱反応だったみたいで、殺虫剤の加熱蒸散装置としても機能していたようです。
やられたわね。
しかしまだ建物の中にいるということだ。総員で捜索に当たる。
待ってください。まずは建物内の排煙を済ませてください。加熱蒸散装置を使用していたということは粉塵爆発を狙っていたはずです。 このまま銃撃戦でも始まれば大爆発を起こす可能性が。
対象はこの混乱に乗じて逃走を図る腹積もりだろう。銃を使用しなければいいだけの話だ。策を始めたまえ。
ですが、
アルファリーダーより報告。部屋の定調から何やら紐で吊るされた玩具を発見したそうです。
玩具？それが何だというのだろう。
まさか。待って、それには触らないで。
アルファ、応答してください。こちらクイーン、アルファ、応答を。
Man, that was creepy. The sound that it makes.
やられた。今度こそ本当に。
どういうことだね。
振り子型起爆装置です。部屋の中に加熱蒸散装置を仕掛け、殺虫剤に混ぜた微粒子を噴煙させ飽和させる。やがて部屋のドアが開けられると、室内に滞留していた微粒子が排出されると同時に、燃焼に必要な酸素が室内に流入、粉塵爆発の条件が整います。そこにコリオリや地磁気に反応する電子玩具を発火装置として天井から吊るして、わずかでも振り子の動きを阻害すると起爆する装置を仕掛けておけば、結果はすでに現状が物語っていますね。
くそ、現状はどうなっている？報告しろ。
チームアルファに負傷者が2名、重度6、緊急搬送を要します。また現場は小規模な火災が発生している模様。現在チームブラボーが消火活動中です。
対象はどうした？建物内の捜索を開始しろ。
現在チームデルタが捜索に当たっています。
待って、その前に負傷した2名は誰なの？
アルファ3とアルファ4のペアです。扉付近で待機していたため、吹き出した高風速の爆煙をもろに浴びたようです。
It might be them. It might be them. JB is sharp, man. I forgot how pretty tense these moments are in this game. Damn, it's already been 2 hours. God, a lot of that was actually the sex scene, though, surprisingly. But we will finish this scene first. I don't want to leave you guys at a cliffhanger.
確認はした？
いえ、すぐに確認します。
急いで。
ハルテラ君、今君、保者の心配よりもだね、もっと重要なことがあるだろう。
Otsuka, come on, man. I was on your side, but now you're just being dumb. I'm sorry. I guess you want to portray these like higher up types of people to be very incompetent. Kind of sad.
アルファ3、アルファ4、両に車両強奪、逃走開始しました。
何？
GPS で追って。
奪われたのは特捜車じゃありません。資材運搬車ですので、ロケーターは未搭載、追尾不能です。
観測ヘリは？
OH1 の発信はキャンセルされています。上空待機ありません。
該当車両のナンバーをすぐに N システムの手配車リストに登録して。
登録しました。現在紹介中です。
ハルテラ君。
That's that. We lost this round, plain and simple. And thus, the rabbits spirited Alice away, leaving the carts behind in the dust.
最悪のラビットだ。
なんとかうまく逃げ切ったみたいね、パパ。
Alright. And with that, since we are done with the scene, I am going to call it an episode right here. I will be continuing to record some more though today. It is a Saturday after all. Well, then again, even if it's not a Saturday, I don't have a job right now. So after I can pretty much record videos for a long time. So yeah, safe to say that I am enjoying visual novels a lot. Again. And I will be recording a shit ton this month. I've been really longing to read visual novels again, and damn, I can't believe the sex scenes in this eroge is actually super good. If you guys are not seeing it, you guys are missing out for sure. But alright, enough about that. This time I will be remembering to say like and subscribe though. So yeah, do that if you want to. And also, as always, uncensored stuff on the Patreon. I'll probably keep mentioning that throughout the end of the episodes. Because, yeah, that's it. And see you guys next time. Gonna take a short break. Gonna eat an early dinner. It's only 5 o'clock right now. Maybe just a snack though, not a dinner. And I'll see you guys in a bit. Or technically 2 days. Peace out.